Welcome home, Raiders. Tonight, we have a special guest with us, and we're going to talk about the story of World of Warcraft. This is Convert to Raid, number 376.
You're listening to Convert to Raid. Convert to Raid. The podcast for raiders in the World of Warcraft.
From the CTR Command Center and Broadcast Emporium in Sacramento, California, today is January 7th, 2020. Welcome to the new year, everybody. We've made it. We've made it to the year of the Visions of N'Zoth, 2020. Visions. Go figure. My name is Pat Crane. I'm the host of this Ding Dang show, and as always, the players are here. First up, we will get to the lovely and talented Thyst returning. Hi.
Hi. Why are they calling it Pigeons of N'Zoth?
No, visions.
Oh.
Not pigeons.
Oh. I love pigeons.
Yeah, you really like birds.
2020!
2020! Yay! All right. Enough. Also with us, we have a very special guest. And if you know anything if you're really into the lore of World of Warcraft, you know this dude. It's Jesse from the Lost Codex. Hello!
Hello, thank you for having me.
You're welcome, and thank you for coming on the show. We really do appreciate it. Looking forward to kind of talking a little bit about story, actually a lot about story, considering that really the news over the last couple of weeks, not much there.
No.
Right? I mean, why would there be?
I believe it was because the holidays were upon us, Patrick.
Yes, the holidays were upon us, and now we've returned.
Upon us.
And we're getting ready for 8.3. I mean, 8.3 lands next week. That'll be good, right?
God, it didn't even occur to me that next week. I mean, I knew the 14th was next week. When you say it like that, it's like, holy crap.
Yeah, it's in 1 week, and then in 2 weeks from tonight, the raid opens up, and.
Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, get ready, guys. I mean, there are so many. I was watching so many videos about what I'm supposed to do to get ready for patch 8.3. I was watching all these videos. I'm like going, yeah, no, I get it. Still not there. I'm still not ready. I don't think.
I don't think that you ever will be, Patrick.
Probably not. Probably
not.
Same, to be honest.
Yeah. So I thought that we would take a little bit of time here and try to get to know Jesse. And talk about what you do, and you know, for anybody out there that might not have seen your work on YouTube, but you do a lot of different videos all about lore and WoW, right?
I do, yeah. So it's not just me; it's me and my I have a whole team who works with us, and primarily it's my friend Jeff. Jeff is the producer and the animator for all of the stuff for Lost Codex, and when we started out, our goal was to make animated lore videos. We wanted to kind of create something. The inspiration was kind of like I said to Jeff. I said, "Do you remember that one scene in The Deathly Hallows, Harry Potter, where Hermione's telling the story of the three brothers?" I said, "What if we do that with Warcraft lore?" And he goes, "I'm down. And that's what we started with. And now we have our own podcast, and we have analysis, cinematic breakdowns. And just I now stream all the time. So it started off with animated lore videos, but pretty much anything, whether it's actual lore stuff or just speculation, we try to cover it all in a bunch of different ways.
Sure. And how long have you been going at it now?
This upcoming April is, math is hard, 4 years. My God, 4 years. We started in 2016. We started.
Nice.
And
that's good.
Hear the applause.
Yeah. No, that's good.
The applause is throwing me off.
That's good.
So for a little bit of context, Jeff and I started working together back in 2011. My team came second place in a BlizzCon movie contest in 2010. He came first place, and in 2011, when we were looking for a new animator, he reached out to us and was like, "Yo, I'll work with you guys." And I said, "Cool." So ever since then, him and I have been kind of machinima partners. but we officially didn't kind of lock in anything official until 2016, when mid-April is when Lost Codex launched. We launched our first video, and my God, it doesn't feel like it's been 4 years.
Congratulations! That's awesome.
Thank you.
That's really cool. And you know, I've watched a bunch of your vids over the years. That's for sure. And along with, gosh, I mean, there are so many different places where you can get your lore, and but I really enjoy some of the breakdowns that you guys do on your channel. So. When we started off, I'm the kind of guy who can watch lore videos, like, you know, content creators like Nobble and others, Doran's movies, and they'll put out longer content. But I thought, you know, what if we did something a little bit shorter, and something where the twist that we could do, or that we wanted to do, was throw in the visual aspect of it. And that's kind of where we started off. And then I had a lot of people saying, like, hey, you should make like analysis or speculation videos. And I'm like, no one's going to care about that. And they're like, well, I care. And 6 people asked. I said, all right. So because of those 6 people, now there's like 12 people who care. But we doubled in 4 years. So we started doing stuff like that. It's been really fun. We started a podcast. You know, a lot of different content creators had us on their podcast, and I thought, what if we did our own? And so our second season of our podcast just launched last week. So we're excited for that. Very cool.
Yeah.
Very, very cool. And I know that you and I had a little conversation about Nobble before, because you were like, oh, yeah, I'm sure you just wanted to get Nobble on, but it's EU, so you can't get him or whatever. And I'm like, no, you know what it is with him is that I get lost in the lilt of his voice. It's this mesmerizing thing that he does. And I don't
the Dutch rolling of the R's.
Yeah.
It puts you to sleep.
Oh no, it's
not in a boring way, like in a like a Ian McKellen kind of, like you just doze off into the windmill land of
like you're like you just become I don't know, like you just want to you just kind of are mesmerized by him and hypnotized, and if he said to do something, I might do it.
Oh my God, Patrick!
You know, deep enough into the video, if he said go to the store and get something weird, I'd probably do it.
What store?
I don't know.
What?
I don't know.
That's important.
This is a weird angle now. Thyst.
Yes.
How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
You seem so quiet right now.
I'm just happy that Jesse's here. Like, we've been bros for a while now. We got introduced by Taryn, our mutual friend Taryn, a couple years ago.
Yeah. And
we are from the same place in Canada.
The funniest part about that, I think it was BlizzCon 2017.
Yeah, that's 17. Right. Yeah.
And you and Thorn were talking to Taryn, and he screamed at me like it was at the Blizzard party. He screamed at me like across the way.
Nice.
So I come over. He goes, "This is my other friend, a Canadian friend, Thyst." And like 4 months later, we realized we're from the same city. It wasn't even like the moment of. It was like 4 months later. I said something vaguely Ottawarian, and you're like, "Are you from Ottawa?" I was like, "Yeah."
You sound like you're from Ottawa, so yeah.
Do I? Oh God.
No, you really do.
I have an Ottawa accent. I don't hear it when I talk to other Canadians.
It's a little bit valley. It'll get worse the older you get. Like, mine's getting worse, and I'm not even around anybody. Anyway,
it's going to be the new segment on CTR is going to be the Ottawans instead of like the Californians on Saturday Night Live.
I'm down.
Yeah, absolutely. That would be great. It'd be extremely boring to everybody not from Ottawa, but yeah.
It'll be all about Tim Hortons and all of that.
There's more to us than that, Patrick.
But that is a lot. That is a lot.
It is a lot.
All right. Well, maybe we should kick off the show by doing a little bit of lore here. And I know that so the thought was bringing you in here is that, and because Thyst was confused about where we're at in the story. That's what you said. And I said, I am too. Because it's been a long time. I mean, since the beginning of BFA, since the sword got stabbed into Azeroth, it's been a while. So maybe we need to revisit some of this stuff. Yes. And I don't know.
He's the perfect guy to help us.
Yeah.
Because we certainly can't do it on our own, Patrick.
Well, I mean, we could, but it would be very, very horrible.
I really don't think that we could.
Probably
I'm
not.
down to just let you guys do it and just see how it goes. Like I could be like the media. That would be fun.
So Sargeras's sword got stabbed into the world.
So we were in a spaceship, and some aliens like put the sword in the earth.
Right.
It's still there.
Right.
We're slowly turning it into a high rise. The diamond
More
man,
expensive than Toronto.
he said the rent is like 2,000 gold a month. But
Right.
that was too high. He gave me a necklace. It's pretty. It makes me feel really good about myself.
He gave me the same necklace, so I don't know how to break that to you.
What?
Whoa.
I know. First the weapons, and last expansion we all got duplicates, and now Magni's breaking all of our hearts.
Oh.
Okay. Oh, could you?
So I just bringing it back. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the highlights that we've seen over the last year and a half. Starting with, I guess it was with, really it's about Sylvanas, isn't it? And the stupid world tree, and I'm still bitter about it. I can't tell you how bitter I am. Ugh, it's horrible.
It was one of those expansion launches that started off so not even like aggressively in the story. Like obviously a lot of expansions start off aggressively, but like even in the community to see everyone kind of just like the faction conflict, but also the way that things were communicated as well. And the thing that comes to mind is the no honor, no pauldrons movement that happened on Twitter when people were removing their shoulder pads.
Right.
With Starf, like that was amazing. It wasn't just Alliance; it was Horde too, and that was in protest of a fictional event in game that seemed to spread like wildfire. No horrible pun intended.
Sure.
And I found it just really fascinating that this event was not only so controversial and story wise, awful and disgusting, but as a community, there was a lot of people who played Horde who were like, nah, this thing. I always think of that BBC comedian clip of the guy he's got the German Nazi hat on. He goes, "Are we the baddies?" And like just like the Horde, like from that perspective, a lot of people going, "Oh, okay, no, I don't like this feeling anymore." Yeah. And it was so fascinating from like a community perspective.
And do you think that, I mean, this expansion has been better, more visceral, whatever than we've seen in previous expansions?
Yes. So I honestly think that Battle for Azeroth is going to be is going to be looked upon like Mists. Right now, unfortunately, there's a lot of negative perspective on Battle for Azeroth for a number of reasons, not just story reasons, but I felt the same was for Mists. And now a lot of people look back on Mists in such a fond, loving way. And I think that's going to be the same. I think it's been so many epic, harsh story beats right after another that once the dust of Battle for Azeroth settles, it's going to be something that we look back on and go, that was one hell of an expansion. That was one epic,
right,
heart-wrenching, terrible, awful, faction thumping expansion. And I think that's going to be something that people look back on.
Well, and there were so many people like throughout where it was just like months at a time of people being angry at the story until the next thing came along, and then they went, okay, maybe, but I'm still mad about whatever the hell it was.
Of course.
And now I'm still on this one thing, and then they tell you something else, and you're like, okay.
Are you just angry to be angry? Like it's this thing where people. I've had this conversation with many people, and it's binge culture, right?
Oh, sure.
We got the burning of Teldrassil, and we got Sylvanas, and I think there was some communication problems, but ultimately, everyone was worrying it's not Sylvanas, she's not going to do it, and then she does it. And you're all like, oh my, and so everyone's up in an uproar about it. And then I think it was 48 hours after the burning of Teldrassil that the Old Soldier cinematic came out.
Yep.
And people were saying, oh, this is Blizzard's knee-jerk reaction. They made this cinematic in 48 hours, which was like, what?
Right.
No.
Mind-boggling that it was there. It was Blizzard panicking. And people want to see, we can binge watch anything on Netflix and we get one after another. Everything comes out instantly. People want that for video games. And unfortunately, when you have these epic story moments, it's not, we've been spoiled by that culture that we don't have to wait a week. We have to wait 3 months, 4 months, 5 months to find out what the next big moment is. And I think that's where a lot of the frustration and outrage come from, that they don't exactly know how to word. They're just, I'm just angry about what? Well, it doesn't make sense. Well, and here's why it does make sense. Well, I'm still angry. All right. Good. Glad we had this conversation.
Right. Well, and the other thing too is because of like what you were saying with binge culture, I'm sure that people really felt like we were slogging through this war because, I mean, there were these long periods of not a lot of news on the story front anyway. And so we had to like just dive in and just, do the war fronts, do the daily quests and do all the war effort things that we were doing. So, I mean,
and they were also asking us to put faith into the story, and that took time, and nobody wants to do that. They want to know right now what's happening because it's making me feel a way and I don't like it. And I need to figure out what's going on. And it was even worse this time because, you had Alliance who were very angry and you had Horde who were very confused. And I admittedly was one of those confused Horde for a while. I went along with everything because that's what you do when your war chief does something. But then, with the whole Sarfang thing and the whole honor thing and the whole old guard thing, it was weird. And I don't know, as painful and as weird as it was, as arguably the most loyal Horde member ever, probably, Thyst for War Chief 2020. But I liked it because, in addition to feeling my usual allegiance to my faction, I was having all of these other IRL emotions that I've never had before about something that, arguably doesn't actually exist. But it was incredible to behold. And it was interesting to see how the community reacted and how, the story has played out slowly and, things have been trickling in this whole time. And, we had to endure people going up in arms, and we had to endure terrible things like developers and story writers getting death threats from people. But, aside from that nonsense, it was so amazing the way that this entire story so far has completely just upset and bamboozled and bewildered the entire community. And, say what you will about BFA, but the story has really got people going.
And some of that is with Christy Golden too, right? I mean, bringing her in and really kind of getting more, putting more resources into the story aspect of things. I mean, that's awesome.
And in regards to that, Christy's been creating these characters for, she's been writing years. Blizzard books for so long. Yeah. And so literally characters like Bane and Anduin are her book children, because she's literally written them since they were. Bane was just this random NPC in Mulgore, and Anduin was this little kid in Stormwind, right? There wasn't much story to them, and because of that, because she's come into the story aspect, again, with, as this said, with all the story developers getting threats and all that, it's people want to have that knee-jerk reaction of these emotions, and they lash out. And I think it's good that people are feeling these emotions of confusion and anger and excitement, but to then channel it in that way, it's like, whoa, relax. Yeah. Ultimately, this is a video game. Let's take a breather. You're allowed to be frustrated. It's amazing that stories can do that. That's the power of storytelling. But get angry and swear out loud. Don't try to punch the person who's writing the story, right? Don't lash out at them. That just doesn't make any sense.
Well, and the really nice thing about Battle for Azeroth is that, I mean, with bringing Christy in and everything like that, she wrote the story before that. She wrote Before the Storm, which
so good.
Was so great to see. And then she was able to bring back some of those characters that we saw, that we read about in those books, and like Kalia Menethil and
my God, don't get me started on Kalia Menethil. I'm so excited for it. Oh my God, the true princess, queen.
and what was it? The goblin and the gnome pair.
You obviously read the novel, right, Pat?
Yeah.
Before we find out what happened actually in the game, were you not just mortified that we didn't get a conclusion on the gnome and goblin?
Oh God, I was like,
are you kidding me? What is this? Christy, right. What are you doing? And I had a feeling it was going to be in game, but we've never had that much of a book plot
right left
open ended come into the game before. So I thought, is this just supposed to be a death we accept or we'll never know? I was confused and angry and a lot of emotion.
Yeah, see?
It was that
angry.
moment of like this epic disaster film where you see the storm coming for them that's obviously going to kill them, and they just huddle together and just, squeeze each other and then just close their eyes and then you move away. And it's like, but wait, what happened?
What happened? Show me their bodies.
And
If you don't see their bodies, then there's a chance. And that was the one hope I was holding up. Like, come on. We didn't see their bodies.
Right.
There wasn't a final breath.
Right.
God, fingers crossed.
What were their names? It was Seraphim?
Safi and Grizik.
Safi and Grizik.
Safranetta. Don't ask me her last name.
No.
And Grizik something.
Right. Yes, and we did get to see those guys later, and that was kind of a fun little deal to kind of revisit that for everybody that read the books. Everybody else was totally confused.
Did you guys read the pre-event novels or the short stories?
Yeah.
They were, my God, that was gut-wrenching, because I think what I loved about the start of this expansion was how sort of scatters the wrong word, spread out over different media forms. So like we got the Warbringers, we got the in-game sort of quest progression, and then we had the short stories kind of giving the full context of what was happening. And while I kind of do agree that some of the in-game stuff didn't reflect the story ultimately, I did appreciate how much detail they went into. And I think watching the tree burn and then reading that story, it just... Yeah, I had a lot of people who didn't read the story and were kind of like, yeah, that's an epic moment and I feel good. And I'm like, did you read the story? And then they read it and they go, oh, it was just kids and civilians who died. There was nothing good about that. And then you get Sarfang's perspective. You're like, alrighty, I don't feel suddenly so proud as a Horde member anymore.
Right. And if you were on the Alliance side doing the actual quests,
angry,
you figured out, you knew who was getting burned because you were trying to save them all. And
that was so stressful, that quest line, because you knew they made it so you couldn't save everyone. They knew you couldn't save everyone, and you panic. You run around, and when that timer hits 0, you're like, oh.
Well, they said like save 299 people or whatever the hell it was, and it was like, there's no way. There's no way
it was this level of frustration that you're like, are you kidding me? Am I not able to complete this? And then when you hand it in, you realized, I wasn't meant to complete it. That's the whole point of it. And now I feel awful and really emotional. God.
Wow, you guys really went through a lot as Alliance.
That's through all through game mechanics. Which is another weird way to tell a story, right? I mean,
it's
just with the impossible quest.
The whole beginning of this expansion was unprecedented, like with Legion, we had those audio dramas, I think, and
yes.
That was cool. So and then with Draenor, we had the Warbringers. Was it? No. Yes.
The Lords of War.
The Lords of War. Yeah.
Right. That was pretty cool.
That was gorgeous, and it seemed like with BFA, they kind of thought, well, why don't we just do all the things this time? And then they did, and it was fantastic. And those short stories, I think my favorite part about that was the way that it kind of immersed you into battle, as a Horde member, like it gave me kind of the immersion that I've always really wanted, where, my leader's telling me to go do something and I'm doing it. And it gave you some perspective of what it was like to be like, on the front line and like going in and doing something. And,
do you find it terrifying as well? Like when, especially from the Horde perspective, when Malfurion's just killing everyone and you see these named characters, you're like, I really like the, oh no, he's dead. Oh, that one's dead too. You're like, oh my God, they just got ripped apart in front of me in the story. And you feel this like, okay, battlegrounds suddenly don't seem as fun anymore.
Yeah, exactly. There's this one part where there's a fire mage that shoots a fireball at some point, and I was like, oh, that's me, like it was just... It was pretty cool.
They had to cut your name, but it was...
Thanks.
Yeah.
I know that. Of course it was.
Oh, man. Memories. Were there any other cool parts, Jesse, from what you saw at the beginning of the expansion that really stood out to you? I mean, we've talked about quite a few already, but
I think aside from what we got shown at BlizzCon, the announcement for Battle for Azeroth, and how we found out the name of the expansion and the cinematic. That was the first time. Usually we get like the announcement trailer at BlizzCon and the cinematic much later, but that, J. Allen Brack showed us everything all in one go, which was unprecedented. And then that was kind of almost like a little bit of a deflection, because it really got the Horde people in the audience and the Alliance people in the audience kind of on their feet. When Sylvanas yells for the Horde and Saurfang charges in and Anduin raises the sword, everyone's like, yes. And then it was later, you're like, okay, now context, this seems very different. And what I loved about it is how we got this entire cinematic arc in. We were spoiled with story in Battle for Azeroth, specifically with the Saurfang cinematics.
Oh, so good.
We got the trailer and it was like, okay, this was good. And then suddenly Old Soldier drops and you're like, oh, Blizzard just released a cinematic. I wonder what it is. It's a 9-minute CGI video. Oh, okay, this is a one-time thing. And then the Anduin one drops at BlizzCon when he's into the stockades, and then they drop the Thrall one, and you're like, oh my God, that's no small feat. And that's not really just the beginning of Battle for Azeroth, that's the entire thing. And so I hate to word it like this, but it's almost like the bar is now raised for Shadowlands.
Seems like
it was very Horde centered. We had Anduin's focus and Gen's focus in the Saurfang cinematics, but I have a theory that the Shadowlands ones are going to be, because when you look at it, all the models kind of carry over, right? And so I think it's going to be revolving around Bolvar and Anduin. I think their reunion is going to be in a cinematic, and I think things like that, it's going to be more of an Alliance character led, with Sylvanas obviously playing a role because her CGI model exists there, that we're going to get in Shadowlands. But the fact that we got so many of these cinematic shorts, I think if you put them all together, it's like half an hour long. That's it was unreal.
Well, it was. I mean, that's just the Saurfang stuff too. I mean, that's like the entire Saurfang compilation of shorts was essentially like 27 minutes of video, and it was kind of cool when the WoW team put it together in like order of what time it is, right? So you have the actual opening cinematic that we saw at BlizzCon. That is the battle right before the battle that is the Battle of Lordaeron, right?
And Old Honor plays before that. And
right. And so it
was the flashbacks that really got to you with a lot of things as well. Like a lot of these epic story moments that if someone had said at the beginning of the expansion, like, oh yeah, Saurfang's going to appear in a cool cinema, I would like, yeah, I see it. But if you had told me, yeah, Thrall's returning to the Horde, it's going to be a CGI cinematic, I would have been like, are you kidding me? That's never going to happen.
I knew that was going to happen.
Thrall, that was a big, and I have it later in the notes here I want to talk about Thrall later on, but there was so many epic moments and I honestly think we're a little bit spoiled, and I think the bar has been set for Shadowlands.
Right, and I think Taryn and your mutual friend, actually our mutual friend.
We all know Taryn here.
Taryn? Yeah. Some people have heard of him. Never heard of him. And the entire team they're going to need more team, I think.
More team.
Yeah.
More team.
I volunteer.
Yeah. Pick him up, Taryn.
There you go.
Not physically.
He can if he wants.
I mean, maybe.
It's fine.
He's a tall guy.
He's a very nice guy. He'd be very nice about it. He's whatever. So then we let's just get into BFA. Let's just say we're in there now. We've managed to go through a bunch of the zones, figure out what the stories of these zones are. What do you think about the storytelling of the zones through questing and then also through things like dungeons? How's that for you? I
loved the dynamic of Horde and Alliance going to different continents. I have been waiting to go to Zandalar and to go to Kultiris. It's kind of a joke in my group of friends because I've always called it the South Seas expansion, and I've been calling it since Cataclysm. I'm like, it's happening next. And I was going to be right eventually. And so when they announced it, I was like, oh my God, we're going to Zandalar. I loved the Zandalari Mists, the Throne of Thunder, and I've always wanted to see Kultiris. So going to both, it was like, oh my God. I usually lean to one faction when I play an expansion. I usually alternate. I actually was like 100% down the middle this time. I had to do both because I couldn't skip the story. And I think seeing the ancient kingdom of Zandalar and all these references that have been in the game for 15 years just come to life, I loved just the grand scale of the actual continent and the land of Zandalar. The story sort of flow was a little bit wonky in some parts, but I think it concluded really epically with that big cinematic with Mithrax and the seals and all that, and you got to meet some iconic characters like Rusticon and Talanji and Bwan Samdi, and I think the way that they did the cinematics was amazing. And I loved Kul Tiras. I loved that sort of Witcher vibe in Drusvar and the naval aspect of it all. And Borealis is probably going to be one of my favorite cities for many years.
It's such a cool town. For those guys that are only playing Horde, grab one tune. Actually, you can even
just go on your Horde. Just run around through the street.
Yeah, I've seen it. I'm not scared.
just run in there. Just
sure.
I looked at it. It's nice.
It's nice town.
It's sprawling. It's huge. And I think when that inspiration came from Suramar, when we all went to Suramar for the first time and our jaws dropped going, this is a city, this is a zone. They did the same thing with the two capitals, only Borealis is large, like distance-wise, while Zandalar is very pyramid-like. It's just many tiers, and you can go around it for hours, kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's like a cake.
It's like a pink and gold cake. Yeah.
That's a very accurate description of Zandalar.
Thank you.
And I loved how all of the zones kind of came together or most of the zones at least, in dungeons. I liked kind of a reason. I never actually go to a dungeon until I've done the story.
Okay.
Because I want to know the context. And like, for example, had I gone to Waycrest Manor, I would have been spoiled, like the very end plot point of who the end boss is, what's going on there, the second I walked in. But I didn't go. I waited till I finished this Westbar's storyline, and I went, "Oh my god, I did not see." I saw it coming, but I would have definitely been spoiled. Moment one when I stepped in, and I love the way that they do that, and of course the cinematics, the in-game cinematics, like Terran's team specifically, just absolutely blew it out of the water with. Everything, the character design and the emotions and the stories.
They're working hard this year.
How many cinematics, either in-game or the full CGI stuff, do we get this expansion? We got a ton.
Well, we got the Battle for Lordaeron. There's like 2 or 3 versions. There's like the end version with Sylvanas in the throne room talking to Bane, and then all that. So we got like 2 or 3 there. Then we got the intro, Jaina's Nightmare.
I feel like when you look back on like all the different expansions through World of Warcraft, I mean, like all of the cinematics that we got through BFA could equal all of the cinematics that we've gotten since
easily
before.
Yeah.
So it's crazy.
Each expansion, that number just gets bigger, and everyone kind of expects it at the end of a zone, right? So like Val Shara had the big Ysera moment, Jade Forest had the big Horde Alliance moment. It's almost expected for certain zones, but now we're just getting them in random spots.
Yep.
That totally, you're like, okay, I'm questing. Oh, my screen went black. What's happening? Oh my god, something's happening. This is amazing, and you don't see it coming. And then you also get the end of the cinematic, the end of the zone cinematic as well. So they're not just treating us at the end with like an in-game story and then a little piece of cake. They're giving you your cake, but then in the middle of the zone, they're just throwing pies at you as well. You're like, wow, this is amazing.
Cake and pies.
Cake and pies.
So what does this mean for the next expansion? Are they just going to give us a movie? Is that it?
We don't actually play. It's like a 4-hour long movie.
Just watch the movie.
Yeah, that's it.
And then
I'm down.
And then you come back
honestly,
then you come back in like 7 weeks and watch another part of the movie. That's it.
Yeah, perfect. Go do your world quest in between. That's about it.
Could you imagine if like they rolled those out into theaters and everything, just like each part of this movie for the next expansion, and then we all got to go, and they're like mini BlizzCons all over the world?
I think they could.
This is the $1 million idea.
I think they could. I think I tell you, if they did a Warcraft series, I'd be all over it.
Can you imagine a Warcraft Netflix series?
Oh, I can't imagine.
The way they're doing like The Witcher right now, like, oh my God. Like, I honestly, very quickly, what did you guys think of the Warcraft movie when it came out?
I thought it was too big of a story for that movie.
That's 100% the best description
that's
for
it.
Right.
It was a great movie, and I think they did their best, but the amount of cutting they had to do from the story, they included too much. And I hate the fact that it didn't do well in North America. It did great in China, did great in Europe. And I really hate the idea that Legendary just isn't into making like another one, but we have seen different kind of franchises hop between, companies, and I really hope that someone picks it up for Netflix. That would be amazing. Just like different old, Warcraft 3, the rise and fall of Arthas Menethil, or
just give it the time it needs in a series rather than just one lumpy movie.
100%.
Don't get me psyched up for something that isn't announced.
Relax, Pat.
Oh man. So then we've talked a little bit about the cinematics and how spectacular they were. Let's talk about some of the heroes that we've seen through this expansion. Let's talk about Jaina real quick. Jaina is, her storyline is probably the best arc in Battle for Azeroth. There's been so many plot points of her story that were left unsettled from Warcraft 3. I always wondered, and I constantly just thought about Kultiris. We'd be like on Draenor, and I'd be like, what's going on in Kultiris right now? We'd be like fighting the Legion. I'm like, I wonder what they're doing in Kultiris. Doesn't matter. I just thought of it. And I thought, like, would they not be angry that Jaina helped kill her dad? Like, I'd be pissed. Are they not pissed? Why is no one talking about this? And so when she comes back home and everyone just like throws bananas at her and gets mad at her and stuff like that, it's like 100%. I saw that coming. And the fact that they got Mark Addy, Robert Baratheon to play Dalen Proudmoore was amazing. Like, I heard the voice and I was like, good God, the memes, the memes are coming. Yeah. And that Throw cinematic was so heart-wrenching. And a lot of people I know kind of just watch it like either on their phones or at their computers. And I always tell people, like, listen to it with a headset on or earphones so you can hear the background noise, because there's and then go back, and especially with Reforged coming, go back and play those storylines. And it's key moments beat for beat from the Warcraft 3 games that you realize, Jaina's perspective and all of it with Arthas and Varian and just everything her dad did, and your heart shatters for her in that moment. I know a lot of people kind of hated Jaina, especially what she did in Mists to the Blood Elves and all that stuff. But when you look at like point blank, like break for break of how much she's lost in recent history, everything Garrosh did, Theramore, the bombing, just losing Varian, all of that. Like it's amazing that she held herself together as long as she did. And in that moment where she breaks and her mom's there, we don't get a lot of heartwarming cinematic moments. We often get like a lot of heart-wrenching or epic moments, but it was in that moment when the music's playing, the very soft Kultiris Jaina music, you're kind of like, wow, I'm flat out tearing up right now. This is the most beautiful thing possible. Right. And then her whole storyline with Thrall, like how that comes into play later. Yeah.
Oof.
Yeah. Well, I mean, seriously, and I think I've said this before on the show. Anytime that there's a cinematic, I just grab a box of Kleenex and I'm just ready for when I start crying, because it's gonna happen.
It always happens. I was at work for a couple of the cinematics this year, or last year now, I guess. That was embarrassing. When Thrall came back, I literally started crying. I had to get up out of my seat and go for a walk. You can ask my coworkers. It was bad, but also very good.
It was awesome.
Bad in the best way possible.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
I think they already knew I was a nerd, so it was probably fine.
Sure. Let's maybe some other heroes. I'll throw another one at you. How about Tyrande?
I love where that storyline went. I kind of wished they would have given a little bit more cookie crumbs leading off of that, but seeing angry Tyrande in the Darkshore cinematic at the very end, or just seeing Malfurion there, I'm really excited to see where her storyline goes in Shadowlands, and just seeing her kind of just sick of Anduin's crap. And like I stand by Anduin when I'm playing on my Horde side, but I really felt for her in that moment, because when the Battle for Lordaeron happened and you see the Alliance marching on the Horde and you see the size of their army, before we had any context, once you have the context, you're like, if Anduin's pissed, you've done something wrong. And in that moment, it was almost as if that anger kind of just was too scattered and she was not satisfied. And I felt a lot of Alliance players felt that with her. They were like, no, like, are we just going to forget about the burned tree, the husk that's over off the coast of Kalimdor right there?
Right.
Seeing her storm off, basically to make her own alliance with blackjack and hookers. Like, she just ran off the best way possible. And I don't want to use the word disappointed. I wanted to see a little bit more at the end of that, a cinematic after the Warfront, something. But the fact that her storyline's coming back in Shadowlands, I said, okay, it's a binge culture again. Jesse, get out of it. It's
and it looks like there's going to be, and I don't want to spoil anything really for people out there, but it seems like from all of the data mining going on for 8.3, it sounds like she's going to be coming back there as well and talking about how angry she still is and talking about how she essentially is beyond livid at Sylvanas and will not let her off the hook. So
the story arc they went with the Avatar of Elune, because she's always been one of those almost like badass grandma characters to Anduin. Like, Anduin listens to the people around him.
Sure.
And Tyrande was probably one of the best voices to listen to, which is what made that anger so interesting. Because when grandma's mad at you, no one's happy. Mm-hmm. And for her,
you don't get any cookies if grandma's mad at you.
That's true.
She's burning his cookies. And the Avatar of Elune moment where she's like, it's almost like a darker turn. And when you see her like throw the orc head into the Moonwell, you're like, oh, that's a little bit gory. That's a little bit dark. Or you see Malfurion dragging the orc into the ground with the roots, and you can hear him screaming as he's strangled.
That was at
BlizzCon, I looked around, I was like, that just happened.
That was scary.
I like that.
That was scary.
That was terrifying. That was terrifying.
Yeah, it really was.
Seeing, how angry the Night Elves were afterwards. It was that moment that people wanted right after the Battle for Lordaeron, but we didn't really get it because Zandalar, Kultiras, I get it. There was a lot of stuff going on.
Yep.
And seeing her just how angry she really is. And I know that's continuing. They said she's going to be involved in Ardenweld and Shadowlands in some way. We don't know how, but I almost wonder if Tyranda's going to be the alliance catalyst for conflict between the alliance and Horde. Because right now, Sylvanas was always the problem, right? Everyone in the Horde right now is chill because Sylvanas is gone. But now you've got angry Tyrande. You've got Gen, who's constantly frowning. Gen's a different story, but Tyrande is mainly the main reason. And I kind of wonder if she's going to do something.
Sure.
It's always been the Horde to instigate.
Yeah.
And I kind of wonder, is it going to be her this time? Next time?
I think that is a high probability. And I think that if something like that happens, then Gen is going to have to actually make a decision on where he stands, which could be a very tough decision indeed. So
I loved Gen's progression in Christy Golden's Before the Storm, because he's always been just like an angry old man who hates the Horde. But at the end of the book, he kind of admits, he goes, fine, the Forsaken are not all bad. That scene in the cathedral is amazing. Right. But he still hates it all comes down to Sylvanas, and he flat out admits, he goes, maybe they're not monsters. And that was the whole point of the book, is the Forsaken aren't monsters. There's some who are monsters. And I think before that book, Gen would have sided with Tyrande in a heartbeat. But now we're going to see potentially Gen having trouble making that decision. Does he side with his king, or does he side with angry grandma? Who do you choose? That's her new name, by the way.
And all right, so just some more big names for you. Let's talk about Bwonsamdi.
One of the best characters in Battle for Azeroth.
Oh yeah,
so cool, and great voice on that. Just this perfect emotional.
He's such a rascal
on that. Yeah, exactly.
You almost want your own, just your own cinematic short on Bwonsamdi, 100%. And what I love about it is he's been a name in the Warcraft universe for 15 years now. There's reference to him. A lot of people, you may not remember, but in the Cataclysm pre-event, when the Darkspears took back their isles, at the very end, he appears and he kills the end boss in that little scenario. But of course, it was a different model, different voice actor. Mm-hmm. He's involved in the Vol'jin book. He's always been around, but because we've never seen him in his own model form or his own voice, a lot of people didn't really have that connection. And then you see him as a performer, on a cinematic, and you're like, I love everything about you. You're should have been in the game 10 years ago, kind of thing. Yeah. And so I'm super excited to see where that goes. The whole Dazara lore quest cinematics when Rastakan's dying and Talanji takes over. there's this moment, I could feel the hairs in the back of my neck going up, where the guards run in and they say the murderers are getting away, or the Alliance is getting away. And Talanji's pissed. She does not want to deal with Bronsamdi, but she looks at him and he's not smiling, and he just points at the door. And that look, he doesn't say anything, but that look says, we'll talk later. You have a job to do. And she 100% agrees with him. Like, she's angry at him at that moment, but he looks at her and he's like, you have to go do something right now. And there's this moment, this tension between the Loa and the new queen now, that I kind of wish we saw more of that. We haven't seen Bronsamdi really since that, kind of. I mean, there's the whole Vol'jin quest line where he brings you to Ice Crown. But aside from that, like, we didn't really see him anywhere else, which is, I get it. There's so many characters they have a spotlight on, but
right.
Like, I miss my boy. I miss my friend.
There are a lot of characters, and I know that we're not going to be able to get to them all, really.
Is this on a 6-hour podcast?
It's a 17-hour podcast today.
Okay, good.
Today only. So, Thyst, I hope you drank some Monster. All right.
I actually did it.
Now, I'll give you a chance, because I know that you said it at the beginning of the show. Let's talk a little bit about Thrall.
Ooh, Thrall. Okay, so I have had a problem with Thrall for the longest time.
Ooh.
Excuse me.
Yeah, hang on. Listen to me. Hang on. It starts in Warlords. All right. It starts in Warlords.
Actually, everything starts and ends in Warlords.
Pretty much. Garrosh versus Thrall. Okay. Garrosh was one of my favorite characters, and as a Garrosh fanboy, he was a dick. And so in that cinematic, when Garrosh and Thrall are fighting, it is probably one of the most emotional story moments. Go back and watch it when Garrosh is just beating the crap out of him, and he says, "You left me to pick up your pieces." The way his voice cracks, the way he's just screeching at Thrall. And at the very end, when Thrall has him in that rock grip, and Garrosh snarls, he says, "You made me what I am." Thrall had the opportunity to look at Garrosh and say, "I know," and then kill Garrosh as a mercy kill. But instead he goes, "Nope, it was all you, bro." And it's like, oh, you didn't even admit to your mistakes. And the fact that Thrall just shrugs it off got to me so bad. So when the Doomhammer abandoned him in Legion, I said, good. I took the Doomhammer on my shaman and I walked away. I said, you don't deserve this.
That was such a weird moment too. Just going to that particular moment
it was
earliest
because
point
I was
Legion.
still bitter. I was happy. I was like, no, you don't.
It was
you
like
don't deserve this.
Oh no, Doomhammer left me. I'm out. Yeet, and he's just gone. It's like
he eat it out.
What happened?
Honestly, left. You wanted to say, like, really, your weapon abandons you, the world's going to hell, and you're just going to leave?
I mean, you killed Deathwing with the little shiny thing. I mean, come on, you should stick around for a little bit. Figure out
respect to Resto. Do something like come on.
Right.
So my problem with Thrall was in that moment, because everything Garrosh was because of Thrall. And total 180 now in Battle for Azeroth. Him coming back with Sarfang, I was excited to see him. Also excited because it meant Metzen was working again with Blizzard. So it was like, oh, Dad's back. This is amazing. And hearing Sarfang and Thrall talk on screen in Nagrand, I was like, yes. And then I thought, I'm still upset with you, but you look really good in your new armor. You've been lifting. And then in that cinematic with Jaina and Thrall, and how he admits that everything has been a mistake. It was the biggest, like, oh, thank you. That's all I wanted you to say, was like, you made the biggest mistake. And like, he made the biggest mistake, but he also tried to do too much. Like, I 100% the character of Thrall is sort of like a tragic hero character, because he was always like a good hero character, and then he fumbled so much after Deathwing with Thrall, and it was in that moment where he could have been like, yeah, I did make you this. And then he still kills Garrosh anyway. That would have been the biggest heart wrench. But instead he's like, lol, no, and then just kills him. And you're like, what was that? It was, I remember if they had filmed my reaction, I had my hands on my head. I was like, are you kidding me? I knew Garrosh was dying. But
it only took like 3-4 years for him to correct that,
Right? He's had a lot to think about. And hearing him say it to Jaina on screen in a cinematic was I teared up going, thank you, because I can't imagine the amount of weight, Cairn, Garrosh and all that. And I honestly hope if we get any reunion in Battle for Azeroth, I want Thrall and Garrosh in the Shadowlands. I want them both to say to each other, you were right. I want Thrall to say to Garrosh, you were right. I did make you. And then I want Garrosh to say, you were right. I failed the Horde. I want them both to have a like Spider-Man meme where they say the exact same thing and then hug it out kind of thing in cinematic form. That would be amazing. And I would cry. And
wow. That's asking for a lot.
That is.
Taryn, if you're not watching this, you should be, and you should do it.
Right. Right. Or Christy or anybody. I mean,
anybody, anyone. But that was my problem with Thrall, is just that one line of shrugging the responsibility. I'm like, come on, bro, you're bigger than that.
I would have told him the same thing though. I'm not going to make Garrosh feel better.
In that moment though, because you're winning, right? You're winning the battle.
Yeah.
Garrosh is that 1% health, and it's kind of
that's also me winning.
True.
Hey, how many raid teams have wiped at 1%? Come on, let's.
Yeah.
True. There was no hope for Garrosh, and it was this tragic character arc. Again, biggest Garrosh fan, he needed to die. He was a dick. Completely, right. I agree with that.
Right.
But it was that one line that I was like, what? And then it happened, and you're like, that's unsad. Like, story-wise, satisfying, but not like out of story. It was in story that I didn't think it would affect Thrall in his character. And I'm glad, this sounds really messed up, I'm glad it did affect him, and I'm glad that it kind of threw him off his game a little bit, and that the reason he comes back to the Horde is to fix his mistakes and stuff like that. And Sarfang says, like, I didn't ask you to lead. You're just here to fight, kind of thing. And seeing Thrall step up was this going like, yes, I don't know. I'm happy Thrall's back.
That was a good moment, by the way, when Sarfang said, I didn't ask you to lead.
I didn't ask.
Yeah.
Thrall's sort of like, he does like the meme where he blinks. He's like, I beg your pardon? Like, I've been the war chief before. Like,
he just goes, that kind of hurt a little bit.
All
right.
Ouch.
All right. We'll move on. Let's talk about
Thrall and I are good. Thrall and I are good, though.
Let's talk about the raids a little bit. I know that we're not going to get to nearly enough of all of the story of BFA at all, but there is a lot of storytelling going on in the raids as well, which is
so much
kind of normal, but this one seems really amped up. And I think part of it is because the Battle of Dazara Lore was all story. Mm-hmm. It was.
I appreciate how in your notes you start with Dazara Lore, and in my notes I had mentioned somewhat Uldir, and how the Uldir raid was not story driven at all.
Right.
And I remember thinking, this is a weird way to start the expansion. And then Battle for Dazara Lore starts, and you're like, oh my god, this is just story. There's no even raid bosses. It's just story. And the build up to it was amazing.
And then that Crucible was story, and the Eternal Palace is all story. And so I mean, it's just like the last three have been just all story.
Yeah, Dazara Lore went out of its way to explain things so thoroughly that it didn't make sense in the middle. It's like, oh yeah, we're going into somebody else's memory. Let's go.
It was confusing, but when Ian announced on that stream that the raid is taking place at Dazara Lore and it's the Alliance attacking, I thought, oh, I did not see that. I did not see that happening as a raid. And then you realize, that there's little quest elements. The Alliance actually set up the bombs underneath the ships in the Zendalier Harbor at the beginning of the expansion. Yeah. And then you kind of forget about that. You're like, whatever happened to that storyline? And then suddenly Mechatork just slams his hand on the button. You're like, oh my God, I did that. And then everything blows up. And it's this moment of everything coming together and the Horde scrambling because the Horde fell for the trap and Zandalar just being overrun. And then there's the looming moments where Jaina looks like a villain, but you kind of get where she's coming from. But at the same time, you're like, oh man, you are.
I still tried to kill her at the end.
Yeah.
I got really close.
Really close.
Well, didn't quite make it.
Hardly.
The payoffs have been pretty great so far, right?
So far.
I mean, we've seen a lot of different payoffs going on with. I mean, there was the bomb questing that paid off months later, and you're like, oh yeah, right. And then there was the Sylvanas loyalist quest line, like. If you're a loyalist, you get this ending. If you're not, then you get this ending.
Can I just say, like, how incredible that quest line was, how important it was, and how unprecedented it was, and just, I don't know, how personal it became.
Sure.
When we talked, it was the second interview with Alex Frasiabi. in that interview, they brought up how they did not plan for that at all. It was not planned at the beginning of Battle for Azeroth to offer these multi-quest lines. And it started with the no honor, no pauldron movement. They were like, they looked at each other going, okay, this is causing something. And like during the Garrosh days, a lot of people during the Siege of Orgrimmar, myself included, I would have loved the opportunity to have a siding with Garrosh and then in the end you kind of lose thing. That would have been really cool. And now it was on a much larger scale. And the fact that Blizzard went and Horde only, and I get why, but they took that storyline and they split it. Ultimately, there was no influence in the story. It was going to be the same ending no matter what happened, but there was the illusion of impact. And for a lot of people, even though it was an illusion, that still felt like so much more. Able to go and, side with Bane and listen to his secrets, but then you can, go tell Nathanos. And he says, play it cool. You don't get to miss the content. You don't get to miss the scenario. But Nathanos is like, no, I get you. You play along. This will pay off later. Right. And then you get the scene at the tower after the Mak'gora and stuff like that, where she drops a huge lore bombs. It was so satisfying and not something they planned for, which was really cool to see them adapt and go, all right, this is what the community wants. We're going to give it to them.
Yeah, and it was just different enough so that you felt like, or the player could feel like that they were really on that side and really, saying who they were loyal to, whether it was Sourfang or Sylvanas. And it was neat.
It was a level of storytelling they've never done before. And I'm curious to see how they could do it in the future. It's not one of those things that they have to do every time. But now that they've given the illusion of choice, the illusion of impact.
Yeah. Well,
I would love to see how that comes into play.
I'm waiting for the Gift of N'Zoth thing to pay off in 8.3. I know there's something. I saw an interview on Wowhead, I think, with one of the guys, and he's like, well, yeah, something's coming up for those guys that have kept the Gift of N'Zoth for this long. If you've had an eyeball on your forehead for 6 months, I mean, you should get something out of the deal.
I took mine off. It clashed with my transmog.
I don't know what it is.
It's all about the transmog. You really do like 20% more damage with it. So
I've been so close to just saying, you know what, screw it. But now that I saw this stupid interview, I'm like, all right, I'll keep it.
We're so close. We're so close.
I know. I can't wait. So let's talk a little bit about 8.3. What we expect now that we've kind of drifted through BFA, whatever. It's a long expansion. What can we do? This is a short show in comparison. Let's go to 8.3. What are you most expecting? What are you most looking forward to? What characters do you expect to hear more from? And now with Bolvar coming into the picture, because now with 8.3, people that have bought Shadowlands can get into making allied race DKs, right?
Yes.
So what are all of the things that you're kind of looking for in 8.3?
To be honest, I had completely forgotten about the Bolvar thing until now. And the reason is Bolvar doesn't have a model right now, like in the live PTR, because that would have been data mined. That would have spoiled BlizzCon, right? But I don't think it's been data mined since. The only model he exists of him as the Lich King involves the crown, which we know that can't happen. So I'm now curious how that's going to play out, because we were told at BlizzCon Alliance or Allied Race Death Knights are getting their own, not starter zone, but like a mini starting zone to explain. Yeah. Basically, canonically it happens before Sylvanas shows up. So I guess that could still make sense because he's still wearing the crown, right? Yeah. So that actually might make sense. I'm just answer my own question because he can sense death approaching, which is her, and so he starts making all these Death Knights, and then she comes and rips off his hat, and I don't know if he can make Death Knights after that. So all these like Volpera and Kultiris and Zandalar Death Knights are going to be running around. They're all made before that cinematic happens. So I'm curious to see where that story, what we're getting in that little mini intro.
Well, in the interviews, it was I think what the developers were saying, and I can't remember who, was that the initial DK starting zone was trapped in time. It was trapped in time. It was right at Wrath of the Lich King, where you could do that stuff. So it's trapped right there. This one is also trapped in time. This one is trapped in time before Shadowlands, before that. So it's trapped in time as of now, I guess.
All right. Yeah.
So, yeah.
I'm curious to see how that'll play off. Yeah.
So,
as for other things in 8.3, I loved Pandaria. And I'm really excited to go back to the Vale. I'm happy the Vale has been healed. We find at the end of Siege of Orgrimmar, I think it's Cho who says, yeah, the Vale is going to be healed over time. And it's been like 6 years now. And I feel like playing the Judge Judy gif where she's like looking at her watch and slapping the table. Like, come on, why is the thing not healed yet? And so it's finally, here we go, it's healed. And then N'Zoth shows up and ruins it. And also I loved Uldum. I didn't like the Uldum story, but I loved the zone. I loved that Egypt, that paradise.
Yep.
And I love the fact that we're going back to see the Tol'vir. I'm a big fan of like the Titans and Chronicle, and so I love the Titan Keepers and High Keeper Ra's coming back. And so I'm really excited to see stuff from him, and kind of curious to see where this whole Magni Mother Heart of Azeroth business goes.
What's up with Magni and Mother? What's going on between them, really?
Well, actually, like little minor spoilers, nothing huge, but Ra actually, he actually flirts with Mother in 8.3.
Oh.
There's some spicy Titan.
Tighten your boots, am I right, Patrick? Am I right?
Right. Yes. Tighten your boots. That's the one. Yeah.
Sorry.
Oh boy. Well, and we're going to be seeing a bunch of with the new raid coming in 8.3, we're going to be seeing a bunch of rehashed characters again. Rathian, and Ra, and who else?
Rathian's looking good.
Raden.
I'll say it.
Ra being a boss in Ny'alotha but he's involved in the quest chain beforehand, so obviously there's a point where that happens, and I'm gonna be kind of sad if they just kill him off, but I'm looking to see how that pays off. And Rathian coming back, seeing him in, with his stash going on, and now he offers new legendary cloaks again, rehashed content again. But right. I'm actually looking forward to see where Rathian, what he's been up to and how his storyline is going to come into play. Because that a lot of people have been waiting on him to come back, and he's kind of been in the background, but we haven't really gotten much from him. So I think that's going to be satisfying.
And it seems like once again, I mean, we've seen some from the data mining, we've seen some in-game cinematics popping up through the raid as well. So it looks like it's going to be another full story in the raid, like throughout.
I'm wondering what the end expansion big thing is. What is the Sword of Sargeras for Battle for Azeroth?
Yeah.
What is that giant? I guess physically too.
Sword.
I mean, don't we already know? Don't we already know what the big thing is? It's the ripping of the helmet, right? I mean, because we've already. I mean, that's not a spoiler.
So. What I mean by that is at the end of Antorus, when we kill Argus, it ends. We kill the Argus boss up in space.
Gotcha.
And then at the end of it, the sword has been stabbed into Azeroth. What is that? And then that sword in Azeroth leads us to the Battle for Azeroth intro cinematic, right?
Yeah.
So what is the event that happens in Ny'alotha with N'Zoth that leads to Sylvanas ripping the party hat in half?
So it's got to involve one of those two people, right? It's got to either involve Bolvar, which probably is not a thing, or Sylvanas and N'Zoth, essentially meeting at some point during that last encounter or for that last little bit, wouldn't you think?
I don't know. That would kind of come out of nowhere. I'd be very surprised. Definitely possible, but I almost wonder, because Blizzard's gotten really good, especially in the last couple of patches where they encrypt everything.
Yeah, they've been really good at that. Actually,
they've been really good, which is amazing. Because as much as I love data mining in terms of like, it's almost like I love data mining like models and like armor and stuff. I think that's really cool. I almost don't like data mining story because I like to see it live.
Yeah.
I hate
it without context, people get angry and then everyone just gets mad before you even find out what's happening. So I'm glad that we're kind of going in blind because I want to see it unfold live. And I almost wonder if some of these cinematics are red herrings or they're not completed. We're only seeing incomplete versions.
Right.
I'd be very surprised if Sylvanas or Bolvar was involved in the Ny'alotha raid altogether, but I'm wondering, what is that final in-game cinematic when we get N'Zoth to 1% health? What happens at that moment that is a big enough? Because we had a lot of big moments in Legion, right? When Illidan appears and kills Gul'dan, when Illidan rips open the sky to Argus, and then when Sargeras stabs the planet. So are we going to have one of those moments leading us into Sylvanas' storyline? Or is there a hidden quest that we have no idea what's coming that maybe gets unlocked third week, fourth week in? Suddenly the loyalists are being poked and prodded to go somewhere else, and we get a little hints and pieces. I don't know what's coming. I doubt they're going to be involved in the raid, but I'm wondering what's the hook at the end of this patch.
Excited.
So many questions.
So many questions. Okay, so final type of questions as far as BFA goes for you for tonight, and maybe we can pick this up again at a later time. I really hope so, because it's been fun.
I've had so much fun.
Sylvanas, just as kind of a last hit, do you think that she is incredibly evil, or self-serving, or is she the hero that is going to save us all?
I don't think she's incredibly evil, and I don't think she's the hero that's going to save us all. Or at least I don't want her to be. I think Sylvanas has a long-term plan. And a lot of people try to use that as justification for what she's done. Oh, the burning of Teldrassil, it's okay. Those kids died. That's okay, because she has a plan. And I'm sitting here going, what? That is a sentence that does not make any sense. That is a really bizarre sentence that you should not have ever uttered. But she has a plan in mind. And I'm thinking, going, okay, it doesn't matter what her plan is. It's still an awful thing to do. So I think she knows something we don't. Clearly, there's a bigger picture at play. And I don't want her to go the Kerrigan route of just saving everyone and being the big hero. Part of me thinks, this is speculation, obviously, part of me thinks that maybe by the end of Shadowlands, she'll be the new jailer. So she won't be dead, but she won't be fully gone either. That the jailer, there's a plan involving him, or she's the new arbiter, one of the two.
Well, and that would be a good job for her, because she's been tired of life at least once before. She's
terrified of death.
Right.
And in Before the Storm, she's when she touches the Azerite, and I think that moment in Before the Storm, that's very key, was when she touches the Azerite, she sees herself as a goddess of creation and a goddess of destruction. Not just like a war chief. She sees herself in this heightened state. And I really think that in some way that's going to come into play. And
she's been under the influence this whole time.
Of Azerite, she's just been on a mega high. And I honestly think that the things that she does, she's undead, first of all, and a lot of people kind of have latched on to the character of Sylvanas. I think Sylvanas is one of the best characters that Blizzard's ever done. Like her arc has been incredible. But the Sylvanas Windrunner that we all met back in the original Warcraft, that defender of Silvermoon, that good character, she died a horrible death, and she was torn from her body, twisted, and turned into this banshee. And over the years, we've gotten previews of that, when the suggestion that she knew about the Wrathgate and the absolute genocide of Gilneas and South Shore and stuff like that. Things that happen, maybe not in cinematic form, but they happen, and you're like, why is no one else talking about this? She was A-okay to kill her two nephews in the Garrosh trial book, turn them into little undead baby elves. That's a little bit weird. But, it wasn't in a cinematic, so not everyone talked about it. Right. And so I think the character Sylvanas is so interesting, but it's hard to put yourself into the shoes of a 3 to 1,000-year-old undead, traumatized banshee. I think it's hard to put yourself into that mindset, because we're humans and she's not. And so it's almost this, I've talked with some developers about this, and there's a level of like the actual proper definition of a psychopath. I'm not using that and just, oh yeah, she's crazy. Like the actual definition of a psychopath is what Sylvanas can be most attributed to. And having to her react in things that she shouldn't be showing emotion, but every now and then her emotions crack, right? And that's where she becomes the most interesting. Like when Saurfang gets her and she's like, the Horde is nothing. And then Saurfang smiles in that moment and she's like, shit, you got me. Or in the Kalia book, right? When she cracks when she kills Callie at the end.
Yeah.
That was like a Game of Thrones moment. And I was like, what are you doing? It was, there's moments where that stone cold, no emotion psychopath cracks, and the Sylvanas who has emotion, the Sylvanas that is potentially still in there, shows a little bit, and you become, ooh, like you are so fascinating. So I didn't answer your question at all. Not even remotely. But I don't think she's gonna be a big hero character.
Sure,
because that would be really unfortunate for people like Gen, right? 70% of his people are dead. His own son's dead. But hey, the murderer is now, there's statues of her everywhere, right?
Yeah.
People have her own merch.
Well, and I think it could be like a really cool, like anti-hero type of thing where she goes in with like the pure intention of saving people, but at the expense of something, right?
And I think that's where her becoming the arbiter or the jailer may come into play. Like she says to Bolvar, like, this world is a prison and I'll set us all free. And you're like, okay, is there genuine interest there in like helping, or is that are you just the angriest, edgiest person right now? And that's the best thing you can come up with. Like I don't mean that to insult the writing. I mean that in like, she clearly knows something. So she's genuinely trying to save the world, or does she see death in a different way and she's trying to do it her way and not realize that, well, now millions of people are going to die because of you?
She's way more edgelord than even the Void Elves are. So
that's saying something, right?
It really is.
They're like Hot Topic, and they're not like current Hot Topic. I'm like early 2000s, 90s Hot Topic.
Yeah,
that's very edgy,
right?
Malgoth type thing.
Super,
I think
prime emo.
Has always thought that she was doing, if not the right thing, the best thing, and so it's hard to paint her as totally evil, because in a lot of ways she is doing what she thinks is best, and I don't think that she thinks of herself as evil. If you compare it to someone like Gul'dan, right? Yeah.
Gul'dan is just like the prime dick. He is pure evil. But when Sylvanas does something, it's not always like, obviously it pisses off the Alliance. But as you just said, there's something there. Whether her morality, how gray it is, there's still something there. Did you find, Thyst, in Battle for Azeroth, that from start to beginning that your faith in her kind of dissipated? As a true proud Horde, what kind of emotion roller coaster did you go on?
I followed her to the tree, and then when she did that thing, I was not following her anymore. And it was so hard, because, I'm Horde, and your war chief tells you to do something, do it. And, when your war chief says, do this thing against the Alliance, I'm all too happy. But, I felt like how Saurfang felt. And I was grateful that, Saurfang was around to give me some direction. But it was very hard to, not only deal with yet another war chief letting me down and making me question things, but, doing it in such a way that, I didn't understand the intention. And I knew that, war chief says go kill Alliance equals yes, but like it's different this time. There's no honor. Like honor is the basis of everything that is Horde. That sort of separates us from the spiky misfit animals that everyone looks at us as. And she played into that, and that's what it looked like. And I didn't like that. So it's been very hard for me. And I didn't follow her anymore after that.
Wow.
Things got intense.
Wow. You guys, because when we were going through this, I know that, some of it is you're kind of playing around with me because I play Alliance, and you just don't want to be, you want to say I hate Alliance. And so of course Sylvanas is my war chief still, and you would say that, but not really.
Under the hood.
Right. It was all show. That's it.
Things are getting emotional. We're deep dive. We talked about deep earlier. This is really deep.
Well, and the whole thing, all of BFA was really emotional. Super. You find these characters that have incredible empathy. I mean, like for other characters and and for what's going on. I mean, you had Zappy Boy, being like this wonderful new character that we've been able to discover, and all these, like all of the different characters in the Before the Storm book, which was amazing. And it was it's been so cool. Just kind of cool. This entire expansion, as far as from a lore perspective, it's been incredible. The Azerite power thing, I'm over it.
So done with your stupid necklace.
The gearing thing, I don't care about. But the lore has been incredible, and that's I think that's one of those things that keep pulling people back, which is great.
I know that the general climate of Battle for Azeroth, with the whole like necklace and the gear and all that stuff, has kind of soured all elements, including the story, and so a lot of people are unhappy. But if you look back, like when you played during Mists, that was not everyone was happy during Mists. And then you ask most people nowadays, what do you think of Mists back in the day? It's looked upon fondly. Maybe not the game design. We kind of forget. I don't remember what class I played or how the talent trees looked or whatever angry topic at the time was. But story wise, I look back going, man, I really loved that expansion. And at the time, I remember thinking I had so many questions, and I was, I wanted binge culture, right? And so I think Battle for Azeroth is going to be like Mist 2.0 in that, which is ironic because everyone kept saying that Battle for Azeroth is Mist 2.0 with the whole War Chief and dethroning the War Chief. But I think in the long run, it actually is going to be in this look back in a fond way of going, wow, I cried at every moment in that expansion.
Hey, as long as we don't have 14 months or 16 months or whatever the hell it was of 8.3, I'm totally good.
Yes. And I think, honestly, Blizzard, since that, I think it was for Legion, between Warlords and Legion, when Ian did that stream, it was a post, and he said, all right, we've been saying that we're going to do no content drop at the end of every expansion for the last 4 expansions, but this is it. Give us this last chance. We promise we'll make it up to you. And I think, honestly, we haven't had a content drop since Warlords ended.
Right.
It's been so perfectly timed, even between Legion and Battle for Azeroth.
Right.
Like they dropped the leveling revamp, they dropped the new allied races. It was a little bit longer, but it wasn't a content drop, draught. Right. And I think that they have it in play.
He did that. Like Legion was like set to a watch. It was perfect. It was like clockwork. It was, it was like, a couple of days before something new, and you'd be like, okay, I finally don't have anything to do, but I have to start getting ready for the content drop for next week. So that's awesome. And it was like that the whole time. It was beautiful. Perfect.
It really was.
You guys felt the same for Battle for Azeroth, that it's been just long enough that you're like, all right, I'm ready. I'm like, have you guys been done with 8.2.5?
It's probably been a little too long. And I'm not talking by a lot. I mean, this last one kind of hurt because the holidays were there. I think that if it weren't for the holidays, we probably would have seen 8.3 drop, let's say mid-December, And
well, if you think back to last December, I saw someone on Twitter say this, when Blizzard came out and said, yeah, we don't want to interfere with everyone's holiday season, so we're putting the patch after. People said, you could have dropped the patch beforehand, but last December was when 8.1 dropped, and they said, okay, Battle for Desire Lore is not coming out to January, and all the raiders were like, thank you, that's really nice. But because the patch dropped, all the new gear was still available in some way, and so the whole month of December was spent just still over preparing for January, and the general commentary was, okay, thanks for delaying the raid, but I still had to spend the entire holiday season.
Yeah, we can help ourselves.
Exactly. And I'm not saying that the holiday season is a good thing or a bad thing. It's just a thing that was in the way, and so I get why they delayed it. But even before that, I think it was maybe like a couple of weeks. Everything felt like a couple of weeks earlier would have been better. But I get what they were doing because they had to scramble for all of this gear stuff and deal with the big problem of Azerite power.
There's definitely been that extra bump in the road in Battle for Azeroth compared to Legion,
slowed everything way down.
Everything down, yeah.
It's like they had all of the story stuff, they had all of the voice work done, they had all of this other stuff done, and and now they just have to work out the actual game. Imagine that.
What do you? I know I'm throwing I'm throwing questions at you on your own podcast. I'm so sorry, but I'm always curious to hear what people's thoughts are on what the timeline for 2020 will look like with the launch. Like, when do you think beta will start? When do you think the pre-patch? What are your thoughts?
Thyst, do you want to weigh in on this?
I don't know. I'm not good at speculation. I don't know. I'm thinking August. Everything starts getting going.
That's
safe bet.
I mean, if it's going to be August, then they need to have the beta going in February. I mean, they really need to have that thing going because, and there's been some analysis from other content creators that say, for BFA we only had 5 months, but for Legion we had 6, and for this we had 6, and for this we had 7, whatever it is, and 6 months seems about right. For whatever reason, the content creators that I've talked to and seen have said, you know what, we need at least 6 months to really get this thing down, so that we can make sure that all the systems are in place. So if that's true, whenever it starts, whenever the beta actually kicks off, you got to do 6 months from there and say this is the date. And I'm thinking that it's going to be a lot closer to BlizzCon than not.
Really?
I think so too. Battle for Azeroth and Legion were both August releases, and I think what you said a couple minutes ago about how everything's kind of been like delayed a few weeks. I think once upon a time Shadowlands could have lined up with August, but I think it's been bumped just a little bit. And I could definitely see end of September, October being when Shadowlands drops. Just because we're going into, we're halfway through January. We still haven't seen any mention of alpha or friends and family much, or beta or anything like that. So what I think is going to happen is I think we're going to have 8.3.5 in, I want to say mid-April. And that's going to be finishing story elements drawn up. And then I think the pre-patch, I could easily see the pre-patch being end of July, August, with a September, early October release. That's just my guess.
I hope October, but I would think it would be maybe mid to later. I don't know how they're going to do it though. You'd want people to get into that first raid before BlizzCon. You'd want that mythic race to be
mythic
over
world
with
first at BlizzCon.
Over with before BlizzCon, hopefully, as people are kind of getting ready for stuff. So I don't know what that looks like. Really, honestly,
it's gonna be a little bit weird. I think definitely before BlizzCon is a better plan. They did, what expansion was right after it was Warlords in 2014.
Yeah, and that was a January release, right? So
no, it was the week after BlizzCon, because I was still in California and I was really bummed out because I wanted to play.
That's right.
But that was the day the servers were like destroyed for 24 hours.
Right.
So I was like, I don't even care. I can't even play. No one else can either. So,
and then 8 months later, they said, screw it, we're moving on. What? So yeah, that was disappointing. Okay. I think we need to wrap up that discussion. I do want to bring up esports real quick, and so I'm just gonna play this because there were some announcements this week, and I just want to tell people. So here we go.
You down with PvP? Yeah, you know me. You down with PvP? Yeah, you know me. You down with PvP? Yeah, you know me. Who's down with PvP?
And I am so excited for a bunch of stuff. There was some announcements this week, and Jesse, I know that you're not necessarily a huge esports person.
You and Thyst should make lore videos for esports. I would watch them.
Sure.
Okay.
That sounds great. And I know that we've gotten a bunch of things over the break, and I just kind of want to lay them out for people because we are going to be coming up on the beginning of the Blizzard esports season, which is great.
Finally.
Yeah, I know. Finally. We still don't have any word on MDI or AWC, the Warcraft Arena or Mythic Dungeon International yet.
No. Zorb.
Yeah, Zorb. Well, actually, Zorbrix isn't any longer in the esports facility, right?
Got a couple days left.
Well, get to
Just
it,
enough
Zorb.
time to tell Thyst what's going on.
Just
Zorb,
get that.
is Zorb in the chat right now? I met him at BlizzCon. Thyst introduced me at BlizzCon. That was exciting.
Just get that announcement out there, Zorb. Come on. Chip, chop,
just tell
chip.
this. She won't tell anybody.
That's right. Because we need announcements for next week. But we do have stuff for Hearthstone Esports. We have the Overwatch League is coming back and their schedule is up. The StarCraft is a thing and it's weird. So we'll talk about that real quick. And Warcraft 3.
Woo!
I know. First of all, Hearthstone Esports. Essentially what it is they are doubling their Masters Tour up to 6 events. They are touching up their Grandmasters seasons. They're going to have 2 seasons again this year. And everything kicks off January 31st. Great, right? That's pretty awesome. And that's going to be at... oh, no. Never mind. Also, Overwatch League, Thyst. You and I were kind of talking about this a little bit.
Oh man, this year, everything's gone crazy, Patrick. It's all they're changing their colors. They're losing casters. They're switching Desk hosts to casters. Puckett's gone. Monte Cristo's gone.
Yeah.
Sideshow and Brennan are now casters, which is going to be hilarious. Florida Mayhem is no longer McDonald's,
which is great.
Retrowave. It looks incredible. And yeah.
No way, really?
Way.
Whoa.
The colors were like yellow and red, and now they're black and magenta and blue.
Yeah,
that's amazing.
They went for that. They went for more of that 80s pop synth vibe.
Yeah.
So,
retro wave.
Yeah, exactly.
Yo, my shirt's retro wave. I'm totally putting my merch. Sorry.
Nice.
Oh, I love those colors. I just Googled it now. Those are amazing.
I know, right? Rebrand. It looks fantastic.
And the schedule looks pretty cool, although a little weird. Essentially what it is every weekend for 27 weeks, there are going to be 2 host cities for all of the games for that weekend. And so it'll be, 6 or 8 teams or whatever the heck it is. And there are some cities that get more representation or host more than others, like Washington, D.C. apparently is hosting a lot, like 5 or 6 of them, whereas everybody, like San Francisco only has 2. So
I'm thinking it's a huge strategy, right? I think a lot of the places that are able to host for a longer time either have the better, more accommodation, or maybe they're trying to sort of introduce esports to places that don't really have a lot of that scene available for people to go to.
Yeah.
That's the whole point of this away game season, is to put butts in seats and to get people to the games that have never really gone to an esport game before, and that's going to completely explode the scene, and I cannot wait to see it.
Yeah, it should actually be pretty cool, and I'm looking forward to seeing all of the different facilities that everybody has, for themselves. And I know that for San Francisco, they're actually going. I mean, they have 2 events, and each one is at a different place. And I think that's kind of the same way in LA as well. So it should be interesting, and I'm looking forward to see what's going on. And then let's talk. StarCraft 2 and Warcraft 3, because it's kind of the same announcement, right?
Yeah.
So both of the World Championship series of StarCraft 2 is dead. It's gone. No longer will the championships be held at BlizzCon every year like they have been in the past. There's a new deal going on with ESL for the ESL Pro Tour. So ESL Pro Tour for StarCraft 2, ESL Pro Tour for Warcraft 3, which is also pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
And from my understanding, so the StarCraft stuff, it's a 3-year deal, more prize money, and there's going to be a ton of matches, cups, international tournaments, everything. There's going to be if you are a StarCraft fan, you will not need any more games than what they are providing you. They are providing you so many, 156 weekly cups over 3 regions, 6 international tournaments, 4 at DreamHack, 2 at ESL, and so it all culminates at IEM Katowice. Katowice, sorry, in 2021.
So yep.
Right.
Does that mean there's nothing going on for StarCraft at BlizzCon then?
No, there will be something. We just don't know what it is yet.
StarCraft All-Stars.
I'm guessing it'll be like an All-Stars
cool.
or like a World Cup type of thing, or like kind of like Overwatch, right?
Yeah.
So kind of like this fun tournament thing.
That would be amazing.
I mean, there'll still be money involved probably, but
the StarCraft crowds are like contagious. I've never watched StarCraft like just on its own, but every time I'm at BlizzCon, I walk by the arena and I just stand to look and take a look, and I'm there for like 20 minutes, 30 minutes. I have no idea what's happening, but I'm like, this is exciting. I don't know what's happening. It's you get so drawn in.
Me either. So I don't. I'm with you, bud. I look at it. I'm like going. I understand what the game is.
Premises. I know the characters. There's a Terran up there. I know that, but I don't actually know who's who on the team and what they're doing. But it's still everyone cheers and it's exciting and.
That's esports, baby.
It's funny because I know the players and I know how they play, and then when I look at it on the screen, I can't describe a thing to you. Right? It's like I understand kind of what's going on, but I know more about the drama behind everything and the players that are there than I do the actual game. So it's a very different esport for me.
I'm glad they're still bringing something back, because it would be weird to have a BlizzCon with no StarCraft tournament. It'd be horrible. Yeah, horrible.
And then we also have Warcraft 3 is also going to have an ESL Pro Tour. There are going to be 4 Challenger tournaments, and then there's going to be a bunch of weekly cups, right? Something like that. And it's the first year, so there's $200,000 in prize money for the year. And it's 100,000 prize pool for the finals, which is going to be like over with 16 players or whatever, and then $100,000 for the 4 Challenger tournaments, I think. So
excited for this.
Yeah, it's
more competitive Warcraft. Yeah,
it's cool. And it's all going to kick off at DreamHack Anaheim, February 20th. So both of those things, which is another cool thing that DreamHack is going to Anaheim. So I might have to go down there.
Yeah, me too. Nothing will stop me.
Nothing will stop me.
Nothing. I will juggernaut my way down there.
Well,
I'm on my way. Let's all go.
Yeah, let's all go. DreamHack.
I'm going.
DreamHack. Sounds good. And that's all I have. Thyst, do you have anything else esports wise?
No.
All right. Well, actually, I'll just play this then. So now we are gonna get out of here for the time being. Until next week. Jesse, thank you so much for dropping by.
Yeah.
It was a fun conversation.
So fun.
Yeah,
it was so fun. Oh my god, I had so much. It felt like we started like 10 minutes ago.
It was frenetic and it was just energetic and it was crazy. So
if you guys will have me back, I will be back.
Oh,
Please
absolutely.
Come back.
How about this? After the raid comes out and we see all the little cinematics and stuff like that. I don't know exactly when. We'll figure it out, but maybe sometime after that we'll have you back.
Yeah.
And get your impressions and all of that kind of stuff. But it was fun.
I am down.
I am so glad to have you here. And for guys, if you enjoyed this conversation, make sure to check out the Lost Codex on YouTube. Great programs for you, especially if you're into all of the lore. All of it.
Seriously, check it out, guys.
I'm going to just plug our Twitch channel.
Do it.
Yeah, do it.
Don't go to twitch.tv/the Lost Codex, because that's not us. Someone took that. Dicks. So we're twitch.tv/Lost Codex lore, but everything else, Instagram, we post these really cool lore facts with pictures on Instagram. We're on Twitter, who uses Facebook anymore, but and YouTube, obviously. YouTube is where you can find us.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Well, and it's great. So make sure to go check out all that stuff. You can also check out Thyst at Thyst03 pretty much everywhere. I'm at Pat Crane with a K pretty much everywhere. And the show is at Convert to Raid on Twitter as well. And if you want to check out everything else, go over to converttoraid.com. That's where we have all the different audios and videos and little bits and things and guild stuff and whatever. So, yeah, go over to converttoraid.com. Check it out. All right, that's going to do it. Jesse, once again, thank you. Thyst, as always, thank you. Twitch chat, you are amazing tonight. So many weird things popping up. And I know that there are a lot of Horde people that are upset about B mounts. All right, but until next time, we'll see you later. Bye-bye, everybody. Bye-bye.